welcome to another episode of the Edmonds Moms Room podcast. I am Dr. Allison Feldt, owner of Body Motion Physical Therapy, and we are so honored to be interviewing Dr. Tara Morrison today. And Tara owns the Rhythm Mama. Is that correct?
That is my Instagram handle, but my business is called actually Inner Rhythm Wellness.
Inner Rhythm Wellness. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Thank you for sharing. Inner Rhythm
You're
Wellness.
welcome. Yeah.
I have been fascinated I've been following you for a while, and I love what you post. And so I'm so excited for you to kind of share your passion and all about what you do. So
yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here sharing with you. I feel like I've been following you for a while as well. So maybe there's like a mutual follow and admiration there. So
lovely. Awesome. So tell us about the Inner Rhythm Mama. What's it all about?
Inner Rhythm Mama? Yeah, totally. All right. So Inner Rhythm Wellness it's kind of born out of my experience working in physical therapy for the past 10 years, and also my experience on my journey into motherhood. And it's really a wellness-based experience for mothers. It can be integrated with physical therapy, but also just women's health coaching. So looking at lifestyle medicine, stress management, and really getting to the root of burnout and chronic pain in motherhood, which I feel like burnout is kind of one of those first steps towards chronic pain, along with not getting appropriate postpartum care. So it was really born out of the way that I experienced new motherhood and how I felt kind of this detachment from self and really going through that identity shift that I think a lot of mothers go through, and how I needed to reconnect back with myself and cultivate a relationship with myself in order to feel like I was able to get back to thriving in motherhood. And then also looking at, what I have seen in my clients cause chronic pain and chronic stress and chronic digestive issues and chronic anxiety in mothers that did not receive adequate postpartum support, and kind of seeing the intersection of my experience, my early on experience, and their experience more in midlife coming to me, and wanting to figure out how can we intersect moms earlier to provide better care and wellness for them on their journey, emotionally and physically and spiritually. So that's kind of where it came from.
Ooh, I love it. That's really neat. So who's a good, I'm going off script, but who's a good referral for you? Like someone, like if you could tell me, like also just from a personal, perspective, like we treat, postpartum moms through the whole age range. And I can think of like some people that would really benefit from, kind of that burnout treatment. And, so tell me who I refer to you.
Yeah. So I think I enjoy seeing moms kind of in that first 3 to 5 years of motherhood. I think it's a really important time, and kind of, I feel like there's a place around, for some moms, it's like 6 to 9 months. Other moms, it's maybe later, around a year after, where you kind of are ready to not being so tied to having a child on you all the time. Like you're just kind of ready to start taking care of yourself. And that's a little bit different, I think, for every mom on their journey. And you're kind of ready for something different. And you might not really know what that something different is. Or you're just like, something's not right. Maybe, a lot of times moms feel like they're going to get all their purpose out of having their children. And they're like, I have my children, but like, I need something else. And so really working to help kind of uncover what that is. I think that is one sign of burnout, and also, one thing that leads to it. And then also not having support and not managing stress or all the other things. So, but in terms of, I like to look at emotional regulation as one of the precursors to burnout and chronic pain. And emotional regulation for mothers is so important, because our children's nervous systems are also developing in terms of their ability to be resilient, to manage stress, and to make healthy emotional connections and relationships in that first 3 to 5 years of their life. So that's what I really like to work with moms, because the way moms show up for their children is so important in how we're raising future generations. And so that's part of my mission, is to help raise future generations that are healthy and thriving and resilient in terms of, and in addition to building resilience in mothers.
Ooh, I love it. Okay.
Thanks.
That is so interesting. And I wasn't really expecting that, but now it makes sense why you have on your Instagram, the 5 simple secrets to managing a toddler's tantrums is probably through managing your own a little bit.
That's 100% what it's about. Yeah. That was kind of like an experiment, and me being like, how do I like kind of get this conversation going? And so I'm like, well, a lot of times when you have a toddler and they're having a tantrum, like, what do? You kind of lose it, and you might like get anxious yourself, or you might lose your temper with them, depending on what range you are in that burnout spectrum and where you are in your ability to manage your stress in that moment. And so that's where like learning what your stress triggers are, learning how to regulate your nervous system, which is what we teach our clients all the time in terms of like managing their pain, right? But like, let's apply that to motherhood. Like, how do we start now with our relationships with our children to manage our stress, and how can that show up in our lives different ways if we're not doing it then? So
it's so interesting. And I guess it really hits close to home and hard to hear. I worked with a coach that is pretty much, I didn't really know that that's what you did. And I did that previously this year because I like to learn, and I'm constantly, getting coaching for different things. And it sounds so much nicer than the asshole dude I worked with who could you can actually understand the mother's journey. And it would have been so good to know about you then. So I'm really excited to be able to share that with my clients, because even though it was so helpful, when you have it's good to have that person who's also been through a little bit, just to have that commonality 100%, and also feel respected. So I think
exactly, and non-judgmental. Like, I think that's something I get. People are like, you're really friendly and you're non-judgmental, and you're relatable. Like, I've been there, I get it. Like, I've struggled. I'm putting my own mistakes and my own things that I've struggled with into how we can be better as mothers collectively. So
that's so cool. Oh, I absolutely love that. And I'm so grateful that you're sharing this with us and our listeners, because obviously selfishly I'm benefiting too. So tell me, would you be willing to share one tip that you kind of give your clients? And if you don't want to share that, sure. I saw on your Instagram one thing that has actually been helping me. And it's just one simple breath pattern. You're like,
the 3, 6, 8.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
I maybe remember different numbers, but
4, 6, 8.
I think it was something. There was a 4 in it. And the one I do, there's a 4.
It's 4, 6, 8. Okay. I don't know why I said 3.
It's okay.
Mom brain. See, I have my child woke up 3 or 4 times last night. So see, that's my mom brain coming up.
Perfect. Good. It's welcome here. But that's great. Okay. So tell us about, will you share that technique?
Totally. Yeah. Okay. So I think breathing, just to preface it a little bit, using our breath and using our diaphragm is one of the quickest ways we can tap into our nervous system and regulate our stress. It's the most accessible. It's the easiest to do. That's right in front of us at our hands at every single moment. So that's one of the first things I always teach people, is how to tap into their diaphragm and breathe properly. As a PT, a lot of times we try to breathe properly, and even in yoga, they try to teach you to breathe properly, but a lot of times you're actually not doing it the right way. So that's another topic, but breathing is the best way, the easiest, most accessible way. So this breath has been shown to quickly tap into the parasympathetic nervous system and improve what's called vagal nerve tone. So the vagus nerve is the nerve that connects to your parasympathetic nervous system from many different systems in your body, but from your lungs into your sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous system. So I will go ahead and teach it to you.
Yes, we would love that.
Okay. Great. So go ahead and just put your feet on the ground. And you don't have to make it a big deal. You can do it whenever, but just find your feet on the ground. And get comfortable. And you're going to tell you what you'll do first, and then we'll go through it. So you're going to inhale for a count of 4, and then you're going to hold the breath at the top for a count of 6, and then you will exhale for a count of 8, and then you repeat. So we'll start together. Exhale all the air out, and inhale for a count of 4. Hold. And exhale for a count of 8. And again, inhale for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 6. And if holding for 6 feels too hard, you can totally shorten it. And exhale for a count of 8. Breathing should be easy. So I like to say they're numbers, but if it feels forced, if it feels scary, if it's like bringing something up you don't like, stop, open your eyes, shorten it. It should be easy.
Lovely.
And then repeat that 3 to 5 times. You don't have to do it a lot to notice a shift.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Our listeners just got like a real magic there. So that is awesome. So talk to me about a kid has a tantrum and a kid, let's talk about my son, who every morning like can't handle me going in the shower without him. So, and I have to breathe through it. So so would you say like if I add the numbers to my breath, like that could help me manage it? And then are you teaching, maybe this is too much, and if I want to do this.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Okay. I'm just thinking, that was my thinking phase.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's just interesting to me. Like, are you then teaching people to give like a certain feedback to the kid during the tantrum? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so a lot of what I've learned about relating to kids during tantrums is kind of based off of Stephen Porges' Polyvagal theory. Okay. And so a tantrum is a response to perceiving threat in the environment, in a sense, right? Like they're not feeling safe. And it might feel like silly, like they might not want you to go away. So that's perceiving it as a threat. Or maybe like they have a stick that you think they might poke themselves in the eye with and you want to take it away, or they want that candy, whatever. It's like something is not right, right? And so they don't have the emotional intelligence to be like, to really comprehend that threat. Their nervous system really responding to this emotion that they're feeling, right? And so a lot of times parents try to like talk too much and like explain to them why they shouldn't be having a tantrum. And I don't think that really works. Like it can be helpful to try to talk them down a little bit. But if you're going to do that, you need to do it with a really calm, soothing voice. Because when we talk about the nervous system and relaxing the nervous system, and according to polyvagal theory, the ventral vagus nervous system has to do with social engagement. And the part of our body that connects socially is our eyes, our ears, our face. And so if you are angry, they're going to see that in your face. If you are speaking to them in an irritated tone, they're going to hear that in your voice. And so that can perpetuate them feeling like they're not in a safe space to have their tantrum. So the goal of a tantrum, and one of the 5 simple secrets, is to create safety for your child to feel their emotions.
Cool.
And so by using your voice, you can help regulate their nervous system by, you just kind of hold space for them. You don't have to touch them, just like make them feel safe, allow them to feel it. You might say some nice words to help calm them down, but let them have their feelings. And then once they've calmed down, they'll usually come back to a place where their nervous system is ready to socially engage with you again. And so they'll make eye contact, they'll turn towards you. And then that's where you kind of, you can have that conversation about, if they're old enough to understand, like, and have that dialogue with you, that's when it's a better time to be like, no, this is what happened and this is what caused that. But in that moment of the tantrum, they're not going to really hear much of what you have to say. So it's really about creating a calm, safe, and nurturing environment for them to have their moment. and then bringing them back to love and feeling that connection with you first, and then giving them whatever advice or lesson or whatever you want to after that.
Okay. Very cool. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing. So
Yeah.
that whole, what you kind of just went through, is that a little bit about what you do one-on-one with parents or with moms? And can you, or I'm sure it goes deeper.
Kind of like in a way, yes, but I think it's deeper. Like that's kind of the like one way that you can learn, you know, if you start learning these tips. I like to teach polyvagal theory because I think it's really enlightening to how our nervous systems develop and how we connect and how we can really regulate our own stress responses. So I think more what I do is teaching moms how to regulate their stress, how to understand what some of their triggers are, their emotional triggers and their stressful triggers are. And depending on the person and the history of like trauma, you know, it might be best to work with me alongside of a therapist too, because, you know, I do like to get to the root of like some of those things. And so I'm not a mental health practitioner. And so depending on someone's history, I think it is helpful if they have that other person they're working with. But yeah, really getting to the root of like, what is making me lash out at my kids? What is making me lash out at my partner? Right? Because a lot of times our partner might be irritating us, but is it really like their fault at the end of the day? Or is it just that we're reacting to the stress around us? And how can we be better resilient in ourselves so that we can tolerate more stress before we either get angry or before we either like get really anxious or go into a bout of depression. So really understanding that full spectrum. And I like to do a lot of education around how that nervous system moves through those different states normally and what happens when we get stuck. I think a lot of us live in a very sympathetic driven state, and we're always going and we're not sleeping and we're stressed out. Like we just don't ever really come out of it, and we're kind of faking being in connection versus and being regulated, and we're coping to be regulated in our stresses and not really actually coming back to nervous system regulation and balance.
Amen.
So that's kind of what I like to help moms with, and then sorting through like, what does exercise look like? How do we get you exercising? You know, a lot of times it's hard. The health coaching tools really help people make that behavior change. Like, let's get exercising. What's behind you not exercising? Let's exercise in the way, like, what do you want to be doing? Like putting the power in the other person, because we all know what we want to do. And I believe we all have the answers that are right for us within us. We just need, we need to see it in front of us, and we need to have like tangible goals and things that are easy to do, especially in motherhood, because if something's really complicated, then more often than not, we're not going to do it.
Totally.
So
yeah. Oh, very much resonating here. I'm going to ask you a few more questions. Okay. So we'll deviate off that topic. But tell us what I've seen on your stuff, living seasonally. Could you speak a little bit to that? You're fascinating to me. I love this stuff. I want to know what that means.
Yeah. So part of when I started on this inner rhythm journey, which is, you know, part of this is my journey through motherhood too, that is kind of coming out in this work that I'm doing. And really understanding like, what is our inner rhythm? You know, I think that can be like our inner energy, like our inner, we have a lot of cycles as women. We have our menstrual cycle, we have our sleep cycles, we have like digestive rhythms in our body, like looking at all these different rhythms. And then also there's the rhythms of the moon, right? And and a lot of a lot of women sync with the moon, right? And that has to do with, as women, and all of us, we have water, like a lot of water in our body, right? And so if the moon can pull on the tides, you better believe that it probably pulls on the water that's in your body a little bit, right? Like, and so I think that is one way that sometimes women can get synced up with the moon cycles. And so I think that also on a broader scale, if we're looking at moon and nature, like how can we connect to nature? Connection is really important. We talked about that for regulating our nervous system. So we can really use nature, like forest bathing and things like that, to help regulate our nervous system, but then also trying to balance our energy by not always being on, by giving ourselves permission to, I'm going to be more active in the summer. Like in the fall, I'm going to retreat a little bit more. In the winter, I'm going to retreat even a little bit more. And I'm going to focus on these things. Like as a business owner, I think winter is really a nice time to reflect and renew. And it can be this way in your life. Like what kind of things do you want to reflect on? What do you want to change? So it just kind of gives you this way to use what is going on in nature as a way to kind of set up your life so that you're being more intentional, you're being more mindful, and you're doing it along with the seasons, and you can do it along with the moon phases if you want to do intentions with like full moon and new moon cycles. So it's just another layer of the rhythm that helps manage your life instead of always pushing, which I guess could be another topic of like masculine energy versus feminine energy. So really embodying like what our feminine energy cycles are and what that looks like.
Interesting. That's so cool. I work with a coach who speaks to it of hibernation mode, and that maybe that's what you're kind of like speaking about, or hibernation season. And so what you're saying is really resonating with me. She kind of says like, that's like when you slow down, you recharge, you reflect. So everything that you're saying. So that must be important. I personally don't know how to do that. But I see the value, and I'm totally like, it's so cool. I don't know anyone listening to this podcast who's not like, I'm signing up for a session with Tara, because this stuff is so cool. You also dropped forest bathing in there. What's that?
Yeah, so forest bathing is really just like going out for a walk in nature. I think some people would say you might do it barefoot, but just spending solo time out in nature, really connecting to it, and trying to get some inspiration from it. There's actually been research done on people with neck pain, and they've prescribed forest bathing and found that they had relief of their pain from just forest bathing. So it's just another way to calm the nervous system that we don't normally think about. So nature has medicine and in it. And I think that we get so busy, we don't always see the tools and resources right in front of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I am so grateful that you're sharing this stuff. And truly, it's like, it speaks so deeply to me. And I had no idea it was called, like, that was forest bathing was a thing.
Bathing is a thing. Yeah.
I love, like, that's where I find my most peace is like on the trails, like as far as inner peace. And so now it has a name. Cool.
Yeah, totally. You're doing it.
Okay. Just got to take my shoes off though.
You're feeling it. Yeah. I don't think you have to, but I think, some people, like, if you really want to get into it, I think that would be another way to really ground in and feel the air.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. Okay. I have a couple more questions. Are we good?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Okay.
This is blowing my expectations. I'm very excited to hear more. So, you talk a lot about radical self-care. What is that? And we, it's so trendy to talk about self-care.
I know.
It's a good marketing platform. I think it's in our December marketing. but like, as far as like true radical self-care, can you break it down and tell me what that means to you?
Yes. So radical self-care is the act of prioritizing yourself in motherhood. I like to say in motherhood because it can be, typically, I think if you look up radical self-care, it's going to say prioritizing yourself above other things. Now, as a mother, like, you have to, on some level, prioritize your children, ahead of some of your needs sometimes, but you need to make yourself a priority before you prioritize all the other things on the list that maybe aren't quite as important. And this goes back to all of the things that we've really talked about, because if you're not doing the bare minimum to be able to tune into yourself and check in and see what you need in order to regulate your emotions, maybe even to tune in enough so you can slow down to begin to understand what your emotional triggers are, then you're one, modeling for your children that that's how they should manage their stress too. So, and that's how they should take care of themselves, right? And I think if if you have daughters, like, it's really important to model healthy self-care to them. And even for men, like, you're for boys, you want, or whatever gender your child is. I talking about gender because it's like, it could be anything, but like, we want to be modeling how we want our children to nurture themselves when they're older too, right? So that's one side of it. And we want to be cultivating resilience in ourselves so that we can help them become resilient, because their nervous systems are developing directly based off of our coping styles and our ability to regulate our nervous system. So that's one of the big things that I think is behind why, as mothers, we need to do that. Because most moms, they don't prioritize it. Like, it's not important. It's the last thing on my list. I'm going to save it to the end of the day. And then I'm so tired, I'm going to just like turn on the TV and scroll, right? So that's the one part. The second part is picking self-care that actually contributes to regulating your nervous system. So we did some breathing. We talked about forest bathing, connecting, like really connecting with your kids, like playing with your kids, super connected, present, being present in the moment with them. That's an act of self-care. Like, you're both going to benefit from them. Laughter is an act of self-care that will regulate your nervous system, not just fake laughing, but like really laughing, like getting into it and laughing, right? So looking at self-care doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be like, I need to take an hour to work out. Like, yes, exercise is important and it should be built in on some regular frequency. But I think moms have this expectation, I have to work out, I have to do this, and that kind of is a barrier to actually action. And so really understanding what self-care looks like from a nervous system perspective, and implementing those things and making certain points of the day, I think, are really important. So like morning and bedtime and meal times, or times that are fairly easy ish to implement, right? So making self-care simple. You still have to do the work, but like it doesn't have to be hard, kind of taking down some of those barriers and trying to figure out what things you like and what things bring you joy that are also self-care, that also regulate your nervous system. Yeah. And so kind of educating that things like just turning on the TV and mindlessly watching or mindlessly scrolling on your phone, which a lot of us do when we have a few minutes, isn't really the best way if you're not doing other things to take care of yourself. Now, if you're doing some things, you're exercising, you're doing some mindfulness, you're doing some of these things and you have time, sure, go ahead, like turn on the TV, scroll on your phone. But if you're taking the precious time that you do have and you're feeling burnout and you're feeling pain and you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling stressed out and you're lashing out at your kids and you're lashing out at your partner and you aren't excited about tomorrow, like, then like there are things that need to be done, and there's things that can be simple that can be done. So
yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it. That's so good. And I recognize those behaviors.
I think we all do. That's like where it's like, it's 100% the human condition right now. And
totally.
It's the way things are, for a lot of us.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. One more question, and then I want to know how people can find you, how they can work with you, and we'll drop all that in the show notes. But tell me about, you have a group on Facebook. Is this can any mom join this, or?
Yeah, any mom can join. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's called the Resilient Mother Collective. It's kind of just forming, so I would love it if people wanted to join. And I'd love it if you wanted to.
I would love to.
Yes, Allison, actually. So yeah, I'm trying to go on there live once a week and talk about whatever's on my mind. And I'm going to be bringing in other people also to do interviews. And I really, want to build community. I think community is really lacking, especially in these COVID times and just in women in general. And so a wellness community where people can ask questions and find some support from other moms, maybe make some friendships through that, maybe find walking buddies. Like, this is kind of my vision for it. So I would love people to join and kind of see the evolution of it.
That sounds awesome. Yeah.
Beginning stages, but cool. Yeah, I would love people to join. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. We'll put the name of the group in the show notes along with your website, and tell us, where are you located in, like, how do people work with you?
Yeah. So I am in South Seattle. However, I do in-home physical therapy visits and virtual coaching and virtual physical therapy. So all the coaching is virtual at this moment in time. And then, and I also, on the PT standpoint, I also love to partner with pelvic floor PTs that maybe don't have as much of the like biopsychosocial, like all the other pieces, right? All the other stress management pieces. So I feel like that's where I'm a really nice adjunct in kind of this postpartum wellness sphere too, because I don't do internal at the moment. So cool. I'm kind of more focused on the functional.
Yeah. I mean,
I could of the puzzle.
Yeah, definitely. That's fantastic and so needed. Yeah. I can definitely see where this ties so lovely into what we do here. So
yeah.
Cool.
So you can find me at my website. If you're like in Seattle or Bellevue, I have some clients on the east side that I go to see on the east side. So I'm over there a couple times a week as well for in-home visits. And then, that's how they can find me.
Very cool. I'm happy to know you do home visits too. So I used to do home visits in Seattle. That's how this practice started. And obviously I'm not in Seattle anymore, and we are not doing home visits. So it's good to know that you're available for that too. So
definitely.
Lovely. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Tara. Everyone should go check her out and follow her on Instagram, join her Facebook group. We are super happy that you're helping the Edmonds community and all of the moms around here too.
Hey, one other thing I just remembered.
Yeah.
In January, I'm going to be doing my first group moms program, the Resilient Mother Method. Okay. And so we'll be going over a lot of these things, like how do we manage stress? How do we understand the feminine energy cycles, and kind of dive into some of that emotional resilience and stress management techniques that we talked about today. So if people are interested, it's going to be, I think, about 3 months of content, and then an additional 3 months of just accountability and question and answer support and things like that to kind of help people actually integrate it into their lives. So I know with the busyness of motherhood, we need that extra support. So if anyone's interested too in that, they can just reach out, and I'd be happy to share more.
Oh, fantastic. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. That's wonderful.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's nice to meet you. Thanks for being on. Take care, Tara.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
The Edmonds Moms Room podcast is brought to you by Body Motion Physical Therapy. We help women through pregnancy and beyond so they can live active, confident, and healthy lives.